Hi, David. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming.
I'm fine.
Hello, Katrina. Lovely to see you again. Hello, Mark. And I think David is still connecting to audio, so hopefully David will be with us soon. Okay. Hello, Mark. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm okay. Still walking on my treadmill. I never get anywhere fast, though, Mark. It's just same place. Just keep pounding.
Steady pace is sometimes better than going too quickly.
Yeah, that's very true. That is absolutely true. Oh, we've got Claire coming to join us. Okay, so some of you have been here before. I'm just going to let the room run. Hello, Claire. Hope you're doing well. I'm just going to let the room run for a couple of more minutes. If in the meantime, while we're waiting, we've got somebody else, just go into the chat and put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. So today we're talking about how to use a book strategically to not sell for you. You can't just let a book do everything for you, but to really help you with the sales process and do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So go into the chat now and just put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. And then hopefully we'll be able to cover this. If not in the presentation, we'll be able to cover it in the Q&A. And if it's a particularly juicy topic, I may even do a future forum dedicated to that topic as well. So go into the chat. We've got Harvinder who's on her way in. So just go into the chat now and put in what you'd like to gain from today's session, or maybe something else that you want to gain from today, because you know you have the Q&A portion. So please do put it into the chat because it's very, very helpful for me so I can structure our time together. We've got 45 minutes together today. Sounds like a lot of time, but it goes like that. I'm always amazed and think, oh my God, we could have talked for another hour here, and it goes. So it helps me structure everything when I know what people's expectations are, because you are giving me 45 minutes of your time, and I want to make sure that everybody is able to go away and feel like, yeah, I got something good. That was a great use of my 45 minutes there. Okay. So, oh, we've got one more joining us. Hello, Harvinder. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining us.
Good.
Okay.
How are you?
Hello. So Mark saying useful ideas to create more interest in your book. Excellent. I think every session I come to, I'm looking for the drive to write the flipping book. Well, hopefully that's the whole point, Claire. This is what I live to do. So hopefully the more times you come, the more it's finally going to go. We've known each other for, must be coming up to 3 years or something now, Claire. Is it longer? We've known a while, and I've always been fascinated.
It's a fair while.
It's been a while, actually, probably since the pandemic. So it's probably 4 years, really. But yeah, we've known each other for a while. I've always been fascinated. I remember being fascinated. I remember you saying that we are not our thoughts. That's one of the main things I remember. And I was like, oh, this woman's amazing. Think of how many people think they are their thoughts, and then they beat themselves up for their thoughts. And it's like, no, your thoughts are just let them bubble up and let them bubble away. And I just thought it's just such a simple. And I was like, this lady needs to write a book. More people need to know about what she's talking about. Welcome, Anna. Hope you're doing well. Welcome, Stanley. Thank you for coming. Okay, and welcome, Henry Cameron. Hope you're doing well, my love. Okay, so as before, just go and put into the chat what you'd like to gain from today's session. That helps me structure it. But let's actually get started because 4 minutes past 12. I don't want to keep people waiting for too long. So if I can ask you, oh God, you're all very good. I was just about to say, if you could all put yourself on mute, and you already done it. This is amazing. Everyone's already on me. You're obviously worried about the fact of me falling off my treadmill and you don't want to be part of that. So thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so let me start sharing my screen. And then what I'll need you to do is if one of you can just put your thumb up and let me know. Yes, thank you, Claire. You can definitely see this. Fantastic. Okay, so you can still see it? Still see the slideshow? Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so first of all, welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. I think everyone here, or most people have been here before, probably a couple of new faces. So welcome, whether you've been here before, whether you're new, welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. So today, the forum always exists in two parts. So we have part one, which is where we talk about the topic of today. Today, we're talking about how authors use their books to sell their products, programs, or services for them. This is not theory. This is in the trenches information. I've published 47 authors now since 2018. I'm about to publish my 48th author, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of this month, or certainly by mid-September. And I always follow up with my authors. My authors are not people that I publish and then off they go and I never hear from them again. I always have strong relationships with all of my authors who publish their books, and I keep tabs with what they're doing with their books, because it's important to me that I just don't help them publish a book and then that's it, cut the apron strings and off they go. It's important to me to know exactly how they're utilizing their books, because that's where the real success is. You can create a fantastic book, but the ones who really have success with the books are the ones who go off and leverage it. And that's the key word, leverage. I've seen people with quite not my authors, of course, but I've seen people with mediocre books do amazing things because they're leveraging their books. I've seen people write amazing books that are doing nothing for their authors because the authors are not leveraging them. I don't know whether they don't want to or whether perhaps they don't know how to. I think it's probably the latter, that they don't know how to leverage their books. And that's what we're talking about today, how to use your books to sell your programs, your services, your products, whatever it is that you do. And then part two, my favorite bit of the forum, that is when you can ask me any questions, you can give me feedback. We've already got a couple of authors inside our midst here, so I'd love to get some feedback from you, find out what you've done. It could be a few things that I show you, go, oh, I do that. I'd love to know, has that worked for you? Has that not worked for you? Have you learned anything new how to utilize your books? Definitely give me feedback and ask as many questions. That way you can really get what you want from today's session. And because you've turned up today, you'll get everything I talk about. You will actually get a workbook. So feel free to take notes. Some people just like taking notes anyway. It's a force of habit. So feel free to take notes if you want, but you don't have to. You can sit back, have your cup of tea or coffee or water or whatever it is, and just listen to me, knowing that you don't have to take notes. Tomorrow morning, my assistant, Joyce, who should be in the crowd somewhere, she will make sure that all of you guys get a copy of this workbook sent via email. If you don't get it, just send me an email and just say, hey, I didn't get it, and then I'll make sure Joyce sends you it. But you should get this workbook. And also, just to thank you for coming to the Thought Leader Author Forum, you can choose one of these amazing causes. My difficulty I always find is, which one do you choose? They're all amazing. But once you've chosen one of these causes, we will make a donation on your behalf, just to say thank you for coming to the forum. Okay. In fact, let me put this into the chat now so you can go and do it. Please do it. It costs you literally nothing. Well, a few electrons. You're troubling a few electrons by doing a couple of clicks. That's literally all it's costing you. We're the ones who actually make the donation on your behalf. Let me just go back to slideshow. We're the ones who actually make the donation on your behalf, but you tell us where you want us to put our resources, okay? So make sure you do that. Okay, so earlier on this week, I published a poll on LinkedIn because I wanted to see how many people actually know how to use their book strategically or systematically to make sales for a business. The good news is, when I ran this poll earlier this year, it was under 20%. So now we've got 37%. So that's good. That means that most of my, some of my audience is learning, which is fantastic. So we've got 37% who actually said yes, which is wonderful. However, we still had a huge 63% who said no. Many of the people, when I was looking at the comments, many of the people who were saying no were authors. So they'd already written a book, and that was happening. And I just thought, isn't that a shame? You've got this amazing tool, but you don't know how to use it. And this is what today's all about, really showing you how to use your book. So this is just some of the comments that I've been getting. I mean, I've got loads of comments. I won't go through all the comments, but here we go. We've got Susan says, I've written for clients ranging from real estate to education to horseshoeing. Yes, it's a thing. People will toss business cards and brochures, but they won't throw away a book. It's credibility and authority that speaks for you 24/7. Couldn't have put it better myself. That's the key. It's something that you can give to people and they keep. I even have people who've got my book and they still haven't even gone beyond the introduction chapter. They still haven't even read my entire book, but I'm there in the back of their mind. And I've had a number of clients who I sent a copy of my book, and maybe a year or so later, they've contacted me and said, yeah, let's do this. I need to write a book. And then when I asked them, oh, did my book motivate you? And I said, yes, but I still haven't read it yet, which is quite interesting. People don't have to read your book to actually be motivated by your book. That's a key thing because people don't throw away books. Leslie says, I don't know, to be fair. She's answering the question, do you know how to systematically use a book? And she's saying, I don't know, to be fair. I wrote a book, but I don't think it's resulted in any sales. This makes my heart cry a little bit. When someone's put the time and effort to write a book, but then it's just languishing there because they don't know how to utilize it. The goal of today is you will know how to utilize it. So how do you turn a book into the ultimate sales rep? That's the key thing. This is E.L. James, if you don't recognize this lady. The reason why I put her picture here is I want people to be aware when I talk about sales, I'm not talking about book sales, okay? This is, I hope you really internalize this. Making money from books is like winning the lottery. This lady won the lottery, okay? She won the lottery. A lot of people say, oh, well, E.L. James did it. Yeah, but that's like winning the lottery. This lady did. It's essentially winning the lottery. She was just writing, from what I hear, she was just writing on a fan fiction page. She's writing fan fiction. I think a Twilight fan fiction page. She was just writing and then she put it all together. She self-published it. It wasn't even professionally edited. She wasn't even expecting much. It was just a hobby. She just wanted to do it. And then the next thing you know, it got picked up by a publisher. It was polished. Then, as you know, she's a multi-millionairess now. You know, she's got so many books and she's got all these films out as well. So she's done incredibly well. But the reality is the average nonfiction book sells 3,000 copies in a lifetime. In a lifetime, not a year or 2 years, or even 5 years. In its entire lifetime, the average nonfiction book sells around 3,000 copies. So let's do some quick maths here. Or if you're in the US, there'll be math without the S, of course. Let's just do some quick maths here. So say all 3,000 copies are paperback books. Very unlikely, by the way. Most of your sales will come from Kindle electronic copies. But let's just say, best case scenario, all of your 3,000 copies that you sell are paperback. You're likely to get maybe £1 to £2 or $1 to $2 or €1 to €2 as author royalty. Therefore, in the lifetime of your book, if you're looking at sales, you'll be making around £3,000 to £6,000 or $3,000 to $6,000, euros, whatever currency you're using. Not a really great return on investment of your time and energy and money. I hope you can agree. Okay, so this is not about trying to use your book to sell as many copies as possible. In fact, most of my clients don't even look at this. They're not even interested. A lot of the times they even give their books away for free, or they would sell their book at cost so they don't go into the red, but that's it. They don't make any money from the books, and they're not even trying to, because that's not what it's about. The book is not the business. And this is actually a phrase that's in my own book, and it's the first phrase you see in my book. Because I always say, if you take nothing away from me, if you take nothing else away, I just want you to take this one phrase. The book is not the business. The book is a clever sales and marketing tool, but only if you leverage it. And this is what you're going to learn today, how to use your book, how to leverage it to actually do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to your sales process. So somebody said it before, that a really well-written nonfiction book can become a great business card. And it is. It's so much more hardworking than a business card. I don't know about you, when I go networking, I come home with a ton of business cards. Most of the time, I've even forgotten who they're from. I actually really like those business cards where people put their photos on them. That's really helpful for me, because I'll go, oh yeah, I remember that person. Most business cards don't even have a photo. So by the time I've got home, I've forgotten who's given me what. So a book will be so much better than a business card. And that's why that phrase is used a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard it before. You know, your book is your business card. But that doesn't really go enough. I think that, who coined that phrase? I'm trying to think, who was it that actually coined that phrase a few years ago? I think they made a really good point, but they really didn't go far enough. It's not about just using it as a business card. You can use your book through the entire sales process. If you think about it, your business card is really right at the beginning of a sales process. That's just attention, just people becoming aware of you. And most people stop there. They just think, oh, well, the book, I'll replace the business card with a book just for the awareness side of it. They don't realize there's so much more parts of your sales process that a book can actually support and help you. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So this is my zero selling system. I say zero, that doesn't mean like literally things are being sold for you and you don't actually have to have any sales calls. That'd be wonderful, isn't it? You know, no, you don't have to do any sales calls anymore. You still have to do sales calls. But what I mean is it doesn't feel like selling, and therefore it becomes a zero selling system. So if you look at your sales process, I mean, I know you've all got very different, probably very different sales processes, but all processes go through 3 phases. So if you look at the bottom, you've got pre-sale. That is before someone speaks to you. So that's where all your typical lead generation and marketing goes in. So whether you're running ads, whether you're getting organic traffic, SEO, you know, from your website, whether you do lots of social media posting, whatever it is that you're doing, that's the pre-sale. Then you have peri-sale, so that is during the sale. Now, if you're wondering, I've never heard it called peri-sale. That's just me. The thing with me is I'm dyspraxic, so I'm neurodivergent, and I struggle to connect things in my life. It's certainly in my brain, and it also means I can be very forgetful. So I create mnemonics to help me remember things. So I use a lot of alliteration. So this is alliteration. I'm doing a P. So I'm trying to remember the 3 phases. What are the 3 P phases that help me with my book through my sales process? That's why I created it. But I've noticed something when I started doing this back in 2018, 2019, a lot of people liked it because even if they weren't neurodivergent, it helped them remember things as well. So that's why I now publicly show all of these things to help you to remember. So peri-sale is during the sale. This is a big one. A lot of people don't realize you can use your book to support you while you're actually speaking to somebody, whether that's on Zoom, whether that's in person. You can use your book, and I'll show you how to do that. Oh, let me come out of that. And then final is post-sale. Again, something a lot of people don't think about. They don't realize that they can actually use their book as a tool to help people after that person has left the sales call, because most people need to think about it. Unless you're selling something that's quite nominal, if you're selling something that's, I don't know, 50 euros or $50, then chances are people can make that decision there and then. But if you're a service provider of some sort, if you're a coach, a consultant, then you're probably looking at a few $100 or euros or pounds, or maybe even thousands. It's not something that people want to say yes to straight away. They may need to go away and think about it. And some of you have been on calls with me, and I hate high pressure sales. I hate it when people do it to me, and that's why I never do it to people. It feels icky. If someone wants to go away and think about something, you should feel that's fine. Let that person go away and make the best judgment for themselves. However, you can use your book to help people make those decisions after they've left the call. So let me show you how you can do this. So first of all, let's do pre-sale. That's one where most people know. This is where most people are aware of. They say, oh, yeah, you can use the book like a clever business card. Well, yes, you can, but there's so much more. There's so much more than just using it as a business card. This is something I learned a few years ago. And when I first heard it, I kind of thought, no, that can't be true all the time. But I realized now it's true all the time. When people buy something, it's because at that moment they perceived that solution to be the best solution for them. Always. Now, the reason why I thought that couldn't be right is I actually thought, well, hang on a minute. What about people? So, for example, in the UK, all the people here in the UK, you'll know this. There is a brand called Primark. They do discounted clothing. You'll struggle to find anything more than 25, 30 pounds in this store. So I remember when a mentor told me about this and said, this is an immutable law that when people buy something, they buy because they perceive it to be the best solution for their problem at that particular time. And I said, well, no, that can't be right. What about people who are buying budget clothing? They must be aware that there are stores out there with better clothing and that they're still choosing to buy from a discounted clothing. And my mentor said, well, no, they still perceive it to be the best. They perceive it to be the best in that category. So in discounted clothing, Primark is the best. That's why they go and buy from there. And that's when I had an aha moment. It's like, right, so every single time someone buys something, from the most inexpensive things to the really big expensive things, it's because that person in that moment believed that this was the best solution. How does your book help you with that? Well, everyone respects authors. If your book is written and professionally published, it's something to be respected, and therefore the author who's created is also respected. So always lead with your book. I'm always amazed how many people don't tell me that they're an author. I almost have to pry it out of them. You need to be always leading with your book, because that allows the people that you connect with to perceive you as the best. When you have a book and others that may be looking at don't have a book, you're perceived as the best. You're perceived as the expert. So always make sure that you lead with your book. Okay. So pre-sale is what this is a big one. I talk about this in my book. Do you sell or do you diagnose? Do you sell or do you diagnose? When you are perceived to be the best, when you are perceived to be an expert, which is what you are, especially if you've published an author, you move away from selling and you become someone who diagnoses issues. So some of you, by the way, have been on calls with me, and you'll notice the patterns. You'll know that I'm preaching, what I actually do myself. I don't really sell in my sales calls. In fact, I don't even call them sales calls, because they're not sales calls. What I'm essentially doing is I'm figuring out, what's your book idea? Is it a good book idea? Does it fit what you want to do? Does it fit where you are in your business or organization right now? Are you ready for a book to do what it needs to do in your organization? I'm diagnosing. I'm figuring out your business and your book plans, figuring out where you want to be in the next 2 to 5 years and beyond, and seeing, does this make sense right now? I'm diagnosing. That's why I can do sales calls. I say in inverted commas, I can do sales calls all day, all night. I get no dread. I get no sales anxiety. I get no sort of closing issues. When people start worrying about, I have to close somebody. I don't get any of that, because I'm not selling. I'm diagnosing problems. That's what experts do. But to be in that mindset, that's why I always say, become an author. Once you've written a book, one of the nicest things that people say after working with me and becoming an author is that they just feel like they had all this knowledge buzzing around in their head, and to finally get it out into something that's become their manifesto, that gives them so much confidence that they even act differently now when they go on sales calls. They act like an expert who's not selling, they're diagnosing. So it's a subtle shift. You're still having these calls, and yet it's a massive shift when you go from a place of selling. Because let's face it, selling is convincing. You shouldn't be convincing anybody to work with you. They should be attracted to you. They should be thinking, wow, this person's amazing. This person is the best in this area, and I want to work with the best. See how that's completely different to selling. All you're going to do is you're diagnosing problems and offering solutions. And the solutions are obviously your programs, your products, your services, whatever it is that you do. So I hope this is the bit that most people are aware of. They don't get into it as fully as I've done, but are aware of how to use a book to help you with the pre-sales, but always lead with it. I see some authors on LinkedIn, which I love. They've got their book on their LinkedIn banner. I'm like, yes, like you have to be a bit of a self-promoter. Don't be one of those authors who are sort of like, it's buried on line 10 that you happen to be an author on your LinkedIn profile, or you have to really go somewhere, move around a website to find out that this person's an author. No. It needs to be front, center and front. You go on my website, I'm an author straight away. I'm not shy about it. You go on my LinkedIn, I'm an author straight away. I'm not going to hide it. Why should I hide it? It took me a lot of time and effort to create my book. I want people to know that I'm a best-selling author. I want people to know that my book has won awards. You can't be reticent about this. You have to actually go out and push the fact that you're an author, and it will really help you in the pre-sales. So let's now move on to peri-sale. So this is during the sale, okay? This is something that a lot of people don't know. So a lot of people may be aware of how to leverage your book to build that expert status. So therefore, when someone gets on a call with you and they're already a little bit pre-sold to you because they feel like, oh, this person's the real deal. They know what they're doing. A lot of people aren't aware of how to use their books during a call, during the sales process. Okay. Now, I use this with a book. Maybe some of you will remember this because I know a couple of you have had calls. You've probably seen me jump off my treadmill and go and get my book. So my book's always in the back of me, just over there. And while I was speaking to you, I probably jumped off the treadmill and I got my book and I started to go through my book and say, oh, yes, I wrote about this. So, oh, yes, you remind me of this case study that I wrote about in my book. And I've actually gone and got my book and I've started quoting bits from my book. This is something that really works. Have you ever been to church where people start quoting bits of the Bible? That's what they're doing. When they're trying to make a point, then they back up their point by going into the Bible and saying, look, this is what it says in the Bible, and they back it up. You're essentially doing the same thing. You are using your book to back up what you just said. Now, before you think, well, hang on a minute, that's different because the book I've written, so of course the book is going to back up what I'm saying now because it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. I was the first person to say that, by the way, when a mentor told me this, and then a couple of my clients started doing this. I said, well, hang on a minute, but the reason why it works with the Bible or other books is because someone is making a point and then saying, look, this other person or this other organization agrees with me. Surely it doesn't work when you and the book are the same thing. You're the one who's written the book. Apparently it does. And it's worked for me. And it works for my clients. So don't be afraid to have your book to hand somewhere when you're speaking to people. You should know your book like the back of your hand anyway. So you should be able to flip through it and find exactly which bits that you need because you wrote it. Don't be afraid to have your book to hand and actually read from it, quote from it. I've even done this. I've even got my book out and speaking to somebody, and I've literally gone to them and said, see, can you see this? And I've literally shown them bits of the book. That actually, it just makes them feel that you making a good point, because not only is it something you're saying behind closed doors, because you have to remember when you have a Zoom conversation with somebody, or even when you meet with somebody, you can say whatever you want to them. There's no comeback from that. It's in a closed environment. But when you said the same thing and you've put it into a book and you've published it for the entire world to see, you've now given it legitimacy. A lot of people have been burnt, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. A lot of people have been burnt by these various internet gurus and salespeople who tell them whatever they want to hear just to get the sale, and then they don't deliver. I heard about this, just someone from yesterday I was speaking to who spent $15,000 in the last couple of years on Facebook ads with an ads expert, see no return on investment. This is the reality. So when people see that what you're telling them, whether it's a Zoom call, whether it's one-to-one, whatever it is, when they see that what you're telling them, that same thing you've put into a book and you've published to the world, that now gives what you're saying, the advice you're giving, it gives it legitimacy. They're like, okay, so this isn't just what somebody's saying to me now just to get me to sign on the dotted line. This is something they really believe in because they've actually published it in a book and it's available for the entire world to go and get. So use that. Keep your book to hand. I mean, if you want to do with me, absolutely put it somewhere prominent. If you're a little bit shy, if you're not as bold as me, and you don't like the idea of having a book right there behind you, have it just near you wherever you are in your office, and feel free to refer to it and quote bits to it when you're speaking to people, when you're diagnosing. Remember, you're not selling, you're diagnosing issues, and then you're providing them solutions. While you're doing that, make sure that you have your book to hand and you use your book as a reference point. Okay. Final phase, post-sale. This is mega. This is something that I'm not very good at. I need to do this more. But a few of my clients have they've really nailed this. And this is why I want to show you this. So I have one client, and what she does, she's fantastic. So what she does is she actually sends a copy of a book after the call. And what she does is, depending on what she discussed in the call, she actually puts these sticky notes, these post-it notes, and throughout the book. And she mails a copy to that person. She says she gets so many of these people who end up becoming her clients. Why? Well, first of all, they're getting a book in the mail. That's amazing. People feel like, wow, you've sent me a gift. This is amazing. But the fact that she's gone through a book and put in sticky notes pertaining that's pages that she wants them to read pertaining to what they discussed. Remember, she was diagnosing problems. So she went through the book. It takes her less than 5 minutes because she knows her book intimately. She just goes through, puts sticky notes in, and just a few notes on the sticky note saying, I want you to read this because we discussed that on our call. I want you to look at this chart because we discussed this on the call. And she just mails that to them. Most of these people end up becoming her clients. They just respect the fact that, first of all, she's taken the time to send a book. And more than that, she's taken time to actually show them where they need to read. Because you have to remember, a lot of people are very busy. They don't have time to read your entire book. I've had several clients. Oh my God, I'm probably had more than 20 or so of my clients who read my book. Well, they told me they read my book, and then they became a client. I've since found out of those, only 2 of them have actually read my book from cover to cover. Most people still haven't read my entire book. They just don't have the time. So to have somebody who says, these are the bits that are pertaining to you, by all means, read the entire book. You'll gain a lot from it. But I know you're busy. Just read those bits, because those bits are really going to help you, because we discussed this. That's a fantastic way to use your book in the post sale. Okay. I want you to give an example of somebody who's really taken to heart. This is one of my earliest clients. She joined me in 2019, I believe it was. So she's one of my earliest clients, and she was one of the people that inspired me to do this section of my book, which is all about how to use your book throughout your sales process, not just as a business card. I do love the whole phrase, a book is a business card, but that doesn't go anywhere near enough. And I hope now you can see it doesn't go anywhere near enough. It's not just about using it in the pre-sale. You can use your book in peri-sale, and you can use your book in post-sale as well. So this is Lillian, an amazing lady. She was my client in 2019, and she's really implemented so much of this. She uses a book throughout her sales process. And as you can see, the underlined bit, boom, the book will do the marketing and sales for you. It's been such an incredible resource to have for my business. The key word here is actually resource, incredible resource. Your book is an incredible resource. Don't just publish it and go, ta-da, published, and then that's it. And then you just go back to doing what you're normally doing. You spent all that time and effort. Are you serious? You now need to leverage it to within an inch of its life. And that's what Lillian does. She isn't just using it as a business card. She's using it as her manual, her Bible during the sale. She's using it to close people after the sale. She's using it in so many ways. It's an incredible resource, her words. But it's only an incredible resource if you get out there and you find ways of using it. And I hope today has given you some ideas of how you can actually use this. So let me just come out of this, because I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. So first of all, hi David, lovely to see you there, hope you're doing well. So I'd love to know, was it some of it, did you think, oh, I'm already doing this? Because you do have a couple of authors here. Some of you are already doing this, or some of you thinking, actually, I've never even thought of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's always like trying to get the first person to speak, isn't it? And everyone's like, oh, I'm dead shy. And then all it takes is a seal to break, and I can't shut you guys up, So go on then, Henry Cameron.
Hi, everybody. I'm a new author, and I've been here before, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. And those of you who have been in other sessions with me know that my focus is really on ebooks. I feel that in our time we need to be aware of the state of the planet and our hand in it, and the carbon footprint printed books is something that personally for me, I know it's different for everybody, and for motivations of, you know, why you're writing, it's important for some people to have paper books. For me, it's not. So I'm really focusing on publishing and putting out there my ebook. And I found that it's actually been quite easy to share it. It's easier to share it as a calling card. I have it everywhere. I have it on, you know, all the socials. I have a website dedicated to the book that is linked to on all my other websites, front and center. Hey,
Great.
you know, I'm talking about it on podcasts. I'm, you know, even not on podcasts, on mentoring websites and things like that I belong to. I blog about it. I'm my only staff member. I don't have a publicist. I don't have, you know, I published it on Amazon. I published it in Barnes and Noble. And then I also sell direct, right? And I keep the price point low. That's another perk of ebooks, is that you don't have the expense and you can keep your overhead low. So, you know, I took your advice as well, Mitali, about releasing the need to earn a ton of money from my book, and just, you
Yes.
know, and the
Yes.
expectation, and give it away the way you would a calling card.
Yes.
Because what I found is that the people that I've given it to are writing reviews, they're leaving, you know, their remarks and their ratings on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and sending them directly to me that I can post on my website. So I'm getting that feedback, but then they're loving it and they're talking about it to other people who have since. My sales have tripled in the last few weeks because of word of
Henry
mouth.
Cameron. That's awesome.
I'm keeping it old school. I'm going back to word of
this
mouth.
is getting recorded, isn't it? This is a testimonial. This is a
testimonial. You gotta come from the heart. You gotta show that you care.
Yeah.
And word of mouth is the best advertising you could ever do. But you have to get people on board with your vision. And, you know,
I love that. We need to, I think there is still this, I don't know, this kind of misguided dream that, you know, I think E.L. James has done it. You know, that's the big one, that especially in the UK, it's like, oh, it's just middle-aged woman who's just writing stuff for fun and now she's a multimillionaire. It's like, yeah, that's like me going to put some numbers on in the lottery and winning. That it's not something that you can say that's a goal in life. If it happens, then wonderful, but you can't expect that to happen. And well, you saw the statistics. You know, the average non-fiction book will sell 3,000 copies in its entire lifetime. You're not going to make a lot of money from that, but that's not where you should be focusing. Yeah, I know we've talked about this, Henry Cameron, a couple of weeks ago. You're wanting to really help other parents who have gone through the kind of grief that you've gone through. You know, you're an incredible, strong person. I mean, yeah, I remember the very first time I met you, I was almost in tears when you tell me about what happened to your son and that sort of thing. And instead, I just saw this beautiful human being who'd taken all that grief and thought, I'm going to create it into positivity. And
you know,
a lot of people can't do that.
What's interesting is that was the impulse to write this book. And I wrote the book specifically for peregrines, parents who have outlived their children.
Yeah.
But then I took a half step back and I'm like, these wings are bigger than one group. This grief is a universal life skill that we are all going to meet. And so I rewrote the entire thing to make it more of a universal tool for people who are,
for people who are just grieving. Exactly.
Anyone who's a griever.
Has today helped you? Because it seems like you really now understand how to utilize your book in the pre-sale. So that would be pre-sale. But can you now see how you can use your book during? So when you're speaking to these people, I know you're in the middle of creating a program to help people going through grief. Can you see how you can use your book while you're actually speaking to people? So in the pre-sale and even post-sale.
Always.
And just so you're aware, I wanted to give you an extra tip, Henry Cameron, just for you, because I know you don't have a physical copy of your book because you have an ebook. Your ebook, is that on a PDF? So, or do you have a PDF version? So do you know how to use the comments on PDF. Do you know how to add comments on PDF? So
Yeah.
you can even use your ebook. So you know what my client is doing, Anita, who sends the book with post-it notes.
Yes.
You can do that with comments on your PDF. And now
Absolutely.
people will greatly appreciate that. People appreciate you sending a book. However, they don't always have the time to read your entire book. So if you can put comments and say, hey, you will get a lot from reading my entire book. However, I respect that you may not have the time. I've added 5 or 6 comments. So just go to the comments and just read those sections, because those sections pertain to what we discussed in our call. And that Anita tells me she gets so many sales closed just because of that tactic.
It becomes your face in the world, doesn't it? I mean, people start associating you. And if you're putting it out there because you have a voice and you have a message, you have something to say that means something to you, other people who are vibrating at that same frequency are going to pick it up. And they're going to connect with other people who are also in their circles on that same. So it's the gift that keeps on giving, but people start associating with you. And what I found, yes, absolutely. What this ties into for me, this conversation today, I don't want to take up more time, but is the whole conversation around branding, right?
Yes.
It's really important that we are consistent in our branding, whether it's our own name as our brand. For me, my brand is The Lost Traveler. I have the Lost Travelers Club, which is a foundation for parents who have outlived their kids. I have the Lost Traveler podcast, which is where Mitali and I really connected. She was a guest co-host on the Lost Traveler podcast. So the Lost Traveler is my brand, the Lost Traveler Field Guide and workbook, right? So this is something that I'm leveraging at every step. And so wherever you find that name, the Lost Traveler,
it's associated with you. Absolutely. And that's
what
a book does. That's essentially what a book does. I'm not saying a book is the only solution. I mean, branding goes beyond books. It's branding is websites, social media, everything needs consistency. But there is something special about books. There's an element of thought leadership. I mean, that's why this is called the Thought Leader Author Forum. There's an element of thought leadership that you gain from writing a book that is very difficult to simulate elsewhere unless you have a lot of it. So if you become like some kind of YouTube influencer that has 100 million followers, then that person probably doesn't need to read a book. They are seen as a thought leader in that simply because of the amount of amount of content they've got. But feel quite unreachable for a lot of people. If somebody told me I needed to create a whole YouTube channel, become a YouTube influencer, I'd probably fall off my treadmill and be like, oh God, that sounds like a lot of work and a lot of content I need to pump out. A book relatively is actually not that much work when you think about it. When you want to become, if you want to create like a thought leadership blog, you need literally thousands of articles drip fed over time to create a blog that's going to have the same kind of effect as a professionally published book. So a lot of people think, a book is difficult. And I say, I'm not saying it's easy. Someone like me will certainly make the journey easier for you, but we're not going to do it for you. So it still involves time and effort from you. But actually, when you actually compare it to what you would need to do to attain the same levels of thought leadership elsewhere on social media or wherever, you actually realize it's a lot more work there. And writing and publishing a book is relatively easy compared to that. Before I go on to the next call, thank you, Henry Cameron. I'm so glad that you've actually put your link in there. Yes, people, do go and get Henry's book. It's fantastic. I've only read the first chapter, but it's brilliant, Henry Cameron. I'm looking forward to reading all of it. So thank you for that. Before I take on any next calls, just let me show you how you can book in a call with me. Some of you already had calls with me, but anybody who hasn't, I'd love to speak to you because this is the kind of thing we talk about. So just what Henry Cameron's talked about. A lot of people are surprised. My book idea audits, I think people assume I'm just going to talk about your book idea. It's not. We look at things like this. The book idea is really just about 10 minutes. That's all I really spend when it comes to the book idea. The next thing I really look at, the big piece, is how does this fit in with what you're doing? Whether you're a business owner, whether you're an activist, whether you're a nonprofit director, books are something that needs to work within the frame that you're in. As you've already discovered, this isn't about making loads of sales of your book. Your book needs to be a clever sales and marketing tool for something you're doing already. So if you want to know, if you've got a book idea and you kind of want to know, well, will this work for me? Does this make sense? Or is this something that I should put on the back burner for now, or maybe shelve it all together? Do come and get a call with me. In fact, let me show you how to do that. So let me just go back to sharing my screen so you can all see that. So this will just give you an idea of some of the things that my clients have done. So they're able to work with influencers, they're able to get media attention, they're able to get on national TV. That's the point. It's not, again, I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face. It's not about selling books. It's really not about selling books. Most of the time they're giving it away. But by becoming a thought leader in their subject matter, they're able to get media attention. They're able to get work with influencers and have strategic partnerships. A few of my clients have even attracted investors into their business. It starts with the book. It gives you that expert status. So do join me for a book idea audit. We'll audit your book ideas to ensure you'll be successful. We'll look at what process is going to help you succeed. And only if we feel that we're a good fit together, only if we'll look at my program, the Thought Leader Ecosystem, and that's where I can go into things like how long it takes, how much it costs, etc., etc. So all you have to do that is, let me just go here. In fact, let me put this into the chat now while I'm speaking. So if you're interested in booking a call, just go here. It will bring you to this landing page. Do watch this video because it'll just go into a little bit more detail regarding what we talk about, and that way you're prepared. 45 minutes doesn't sound like long, but if we're both prepared, it's amazing what we can get done. Henry Cameron's like nodding his head because we did that recently. It's amazing. You probably felt a little bit battered with all the information that I gave you, but it's amazing what I can get through in 4 or 5 minutes and really give you an understanding of what to do next. With some people, it's not to write a book. I've spoken with people who've said, take the next year to build your business. Let's talk again this time next year, and we'll just keep in touch with each other. But I can give you a roadmap. That's what we're talking about. We'll give you a roadmap as to what you should do, the next steps in your thought leadership journey. So all you do is watch the video, then do come here. And then all you have to do, you know how Calendly works. You just pick a time and a date that suits you. Just put in your details and then just book a call with me. And I'm so happy with Henry Cameron. Like, it's so nice when people actually listen to me. It's nice when people listen to me and actually do.
Can I mention too, Natalie, you know, one of the great things that came out of our session together was that this has triggered all these other ideas, other books and other things that I want to do. And what you were able to do was you were able to rein me in and say, you know what, do this and do it brilliantly before you expand. And there's no rush. There's no, you know, I want to diversify the message and do other things, but you were absolutely right that you need to focus on the one, get it out there, do it brilliantly, make that your point of focus. Because if you're doing too many things, you got so many plates spinning, then the focus is
spread yourself too thin, and then people are confused.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Not a problem. That's what I'm here for.
It was big.
Any other questions? I'm just gonna have a quick look on the chat. So Mark said an author I've worked with said his book was the best business card he's ever had. Absolutely. But just if you want to tell him now, Mark, would just say, actually, that's great that you're using it as a great business card, but you shouldn't just be using, because that's pre-sale. So if you remember the 3 steps, the business card is just the pre-sale. He probably isn't using his book peri-sale and post-sale. So you actually should be doing a lot more. So please do maybe send in the replay, Mark, and say, look, there's other ways you could be using your book, you know, because he's already doing a great job pre-sale. Get him to understand that he can use his book peri-sale and post-sale as well. David, you said how to get people onto David Bailey, I should say, how to get people onto a sales call with the book. I'll be interested. Has that helped you, David? If you want to come off mute and let me know, do you have any questions or?
Hi, Natalie. Thank you.
Hi, David. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I hope you're doing well. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I was intrigued because I like your approach to sales when you talk about diagnosing problems and then offering your solutions. just for a bit of background, for the last year or so, I've been working with a plant-based fitness influencer, and I'm on the team as like a high ticket closer, you could say.
Oh,
And
okay.
we're focused a lot on sales percentage and targets and tracking everything. So I was really curious how that works with you. Are you even focused on like your close rate percentage, or is that
Absolutely. Anybody who doesn't do that, as far as I'm going to sound a little bit rude here, but some of you guys know have known me for a while. I can be, in the nicest way possible, I can be blunt. But the reason why I'm blunt is sometimes you have to be blunt for people to get it. If you're a business owner and you don't know your figures, and I mean things like how many leads you're generating in a week, in a month, in a quarter, how that converts to calls, how many calls you need to convert into a sale. If you don't have those numbers, you don't have a business, you have an expensive hobby. So absolutely. And what I've seen is the more I use my book, it crunches the numbers. I need far fewer leads to turn to sales calls. I need far fewer sales calls to turn into a sale when I'm utilizing my book. That's one of the reasons why well, first of all, as a book publisher, I had to write a book because it's a bit like, well, would you go to a dentist with bad teeth? You wouldn't, would you? So I kind of had to write a book anyway because I'm a book publisher. But the other reason was I knew I was watching people use their books. But my background, Davey, I don't know if you know my background. Before I became a publisher, I was a ghostwriter, copywriter first, then ghostwriter. I wrote 7 books as a ghostwriter. And then I stayed in touch with my clients to see how they utilize their books. And it just blew my mind. I thought people were writing books just to say, hey, look at me, I'm an expert, I know what I'm doing, which is what people are doing. But then what my clients were doing is clever tactics within their sales process, some of what you've learned today. And I just thought, I had no idea. I thought a book was something that you stick on your website and gives you a bit of credibility and authority. And that was it, really. I didn't realize there's all these tactics that you can actually use within your sales process. So yeah, absolutely, it helps because you'll know this as a salesperson. How the energy that people bring to a sales call is everything. When someone comes into a sales call already feeling like this person knows their onions, this person knows what they're talking about, that it's so much easier. And then it doesn't even feel like a sales call. It does feel like a diagnosing. That's exactly what I did with Henry Cameron. Henry Cameron feels like he knows me. Well, he does know me, really. And all I did was I spent time just diagnosing what's going on. He's got a fledgling business. Now is not the right time for him to publish a professionally put. He's got an ebook, but he could turn that into a paperback book, something that it becomes a thought leadership piece. But he's not in the right place in his business now. He was also a little bit all over the place regarding who he wants to work with. So I helped him narrow that channel down so he can have more success in one place first before he diversifies. And then we're absolutely going to stay in touch. And I hope to publish him sometime next year. But I diagnose problems and then I offer solutions, whether that's a solution right now or a solution later. Because of that, I can do sales calls, I say it in inverted commas, all day, every day, and feel no anxiety whatsoever. Whereas previously, when I was a recruitment consultant many years ago, and I had to cold call people, and oh my God.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh my God, I was making good money, so I kept at it, but the money was the only thing keeping me going. I hated that job, absolutely. And Sunday evening, I would get a dread in my stomach. That dread of, oh, Monday, going back to work. I got the Monday morning dreads on Sunday evening because I hated that job, because it was just trying to hoodwink people into, it's a completely different process. You're trying to convince. It's never nice trying to convince people to do anything. It's just not nice. Whereas when you switch over to, what's your problem? Let me diagnose where the issues are and let me then see if I can offer a solution to it. So much nicer. It just feels so much more collaborative, and we're just working together to work out what's best for you.
Yeah, it's authentic, that approach.
Bye, Henry Cameron.
Because you provide so much value
Bye,
up front.
Harvey.
Yeah, I was just about to book a call with you before you mentioned me there.
Oh, well, the link is there.
I'd love to talk with you more about this.
Let's do that. And then we can obviously, I have to kind of get around everybody here, but we can just spend 45 minutes one-on-one, and let me just figure out what, because we've known each other for a few years now, sort of on and off. We're in the same sort of plant-based vegan circles, but I don't know the intimate exactly what it is that you do. So it'd be good to have a conversation, and then let's see if we can work something out.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Okay, we'll always go over time, but I love this. Didn't I say this? I said everyone's always silent when I come off the slides. It's like no one wants to talk, no one wants to be the first person. But as soon as you guys get talking, can't shut you up then, can I? We'll always go over time. Any final thoughts? I can stick around for a couple of more minutes before I need to go for my next call. Any final thoughts, or I'm just going to have a look at the chat. Oh, how easy is it to give someone an ebook? Claire said, Henry's already very easy. You can just email. The difference, just to let you know, Claire, the reason why I'm an advocate of physical books, certainly from an environmental point of view, ebooks don't have the same carbon footprint as a paperback book. However, there is something, I don't know, feeling something. Think about it this way. If I sent you an ebook version of my book, how would you feel? Probably like, oh, it's nice of her. But let's face it, all it took her was just to send over, just email.
I know, but I don't own any books, Natalie, at all. I'm an e-reader 100%, and audiobooks, because I have a motorhome. I haven't got space to carry books around with me. And I'm a minimalist, so I'd probably send it back. No offense, but you know, I would probably say, have you got an audio version of this or a Kindle version of this?
Yeah. Well, in that case,
not only for the environment, just space-wise, I don't want lots of clutter.
Yeah. So. No, I've got a whole room full of books downstairs, and I do sometimes think I could use this room for other things, really, and instead it's just housing my book. So yeah, I completely get that. You can absolutely share your book and use the tip. You know, you don't have a book yet, but when you do write your book, use the tip that I gave Henry Cameron. You know, you can still put comments and show them and sort of direct them, and the people appreciate that, because when you just throw a book at somebody, they're kind of like, oh, that's nice, but oh my God, I don't have 2 or 3 hours to go through this book. Whereas if you put literal comments, if you've had a conversation with that person, you can put comments in that PDF book and say, these are the bits that I want you to read, or email them just a list of the pages that you want them to go to and say, just read those bits because those bits pertain to you. I've done that with my book and it really works. People go, oh yeah. I've even said, like, go to this page, there's a case study. That's you. That case study is pretty much you. Go and read that case study. And they're like, oh, that's fantastic. Then people do feel motivated to read, because you only ask them to read a page here, or go and look at this graph, or go and whatever it is you've got in this book, rather than read my entire book, which can be a lot for people. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, so I think I've answered, let me just quickly, I think I've answered all the questions. Bye, Claire, lovely to see you. I think I've answered all the questions from today. Any final thoughts or questions? No, Stanley, I just want to say thank you. I'm still walking on my treadmill backwards. That's now become a new thing. In fact, I don't even walk forwards on my treadmill anymore. I just walk backwards on my treadmill after you told me. So thank you for that tip. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Really enjoyed you having it. I hope you got a lot from today. Remember, you will get the workbook tomorrow. So if you're thinking, oh my God, that was a lot of information she just threw in my face and I don't remember all of it, don't worry, you'll get a workbook sent tomorrow. If you don't receive it tomorrow morning, do send me a message and I'll make sure Joycey, who's in the room right now, I'll make sure Joycey checks to see if it's going to the right email or not. Okay, thank you so much, and I hope to see you at a future forum. Bye for now. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.